To understand Silla, you have to understand the brutal world it was born into. In the 1st century BCE, the Korean peninsula was a fractured land of warring tribes, mountain fortresses, and horse-riding warlords. To the north loomed the Han Chinese, who in 108 BCE had crushed the kingdom of Joseon and established 4 military commanderies on Korean soil. The peninsula became a colony, taxed and policed by the most powerful empire on earth. But in the deep southeast, in a fertile valley sheltered by mountains and the sea, 6 small village confederations gathered around a chieftain named Baekhyokgeos. The traditional founding date is 57 BCE. According to the Samguk Sagi, the official Korean history compiled in 1145, Hyokgeos was found as an infant inside a giant egg next to a glowing white horse. Mythology, certainly. But archaeology confirms that around this exact period, a powerful new political center began rising in the Jeonju Basin. This new kingdom called itself Saro, and later Silla. It was the smallest and weakest of 3 kingdoms that would emerge on the peninsula. To the north sprawled mighty Goguryeo, a militaristic empire whose cavalry would one day humiliate even the Chinese Sui dynasty. To the west lay sophisticated Baekje, a maritime power with deep ties to Japan. Silla, hemmed in by mountains and cut off from the Chinese cultural mainstream, was treated as the backwater. For nearly 500 years, that is exactly what it was. But isolation had advantages. While Goguryeo and Baekje exhausted themselves in endless war, Silla quietly developed something unique, an aristocratic system called the bone rank, or galpum. Your social class was literally encoded in your blood. Sacred bone, true bone, 6 head rank, and downward. Only those of sacred bone could become monarch. The system was rigid, brutal, and unforgiving, and it produced, against every expectation, 3 of the most extraordinary rulers in Asian history, all of them women. The transformation began in 632 CE, when the male line of sacred bone royalty went extinct. Faced with a constitutional crisis, the Silla aristocracy did something unthinkable in the Confucian world. They crowned a queen. Her name was Seondeok, and she would reign for 15 years. Seondeok was no figurehead. She built the Cheomseongdi Observatory in 634, the oldest surviving astronomical observatory in East Asia and possibly the world. Its 362 stones represent the days of the lunar year. Its 27 layers reflect that she was the 27th ruler of Silla. It still stands in Jeonju today, almost 1,400 years later. She founded the magnificent 9-story wooden pagoda of Hwangnyangsa, said to soar over 80 meters tall, taller than any wooden structure built in Europe at the time. She sent scholars to Tang China to absorb every advance in mathematics, medicine, and military strategy. And when her cousin, Queen Jindeok, succeeded her in 647, the alliance with Tang China was sealed. Then came the masterstroke. In 660 CE, under King Mayal, Silla and Tang launched a coordinated invasion of Baekje. The Baekje capital fell in just 10 days. King Yuja was captured and shipped to the Tang court. 8 years later, in 668, the same alliance crushed mighty Goguryeo. The peninsula's 2 superpowers, both far larger and richer than Silla, were extinguished within a single decade. But the Tang Chinese had no intention of leaving. They installed military governors and prepared to absorb all of Korea into their empire. Silla, the supposed junior partner, now faced the most powerful military force on Earth. In a series of brilliant campaigns from 670 to 676, Silla forces under General Kim Yu-sin and his successors fought the Tang to a standstill. At the Battle of Miso Fortress in 675, Silla armies inflicted a catastrophic defeat on a Tang force estimated at over 200,000 men. The Chinese withdrew north of the Taedong River. Korea, for the first time in its history, was unified under a single Korean ruler. This is when Silla's golden age truly exploded. The capital Jeonju grew to a population of nearly 1 million people, making it one of the 4 largest cities on the planet alongside Constantinople, Baghdad, and Chang'an. Arab geographers like Ibn Khordadbeh wrote of Silla in the 9th century as a paradise of gold, where merchants who traveled there never wished to leave. Persian glass beads, Roman intaglios, and Sogdian silver have all been excavated from Silla tombs. The Silk Road did not end in China. It ended in Jeonju. At the height of its power, Silla seemed eternal. The Bulguksa Temple, completed in 774, and the Seokgyoram Grotto with its serene granite Buddha became wonders of the Buddhist world. They are now UNESCO World Heritage Sites. The Emil bell, cast in 771, weighs nearly 19 tons and produces a tone so haunting that legends claim a child was sacrificed in its forging. Its real chemistry, a unique bronze alloy, has never been fully replicated. But the bone rank system that had created Silla would also destroy it. Because power was inherited by blood, no merit-based aristocracy could ever rise. Brilliant generals from lower ranks were systematically excluded. Talented scholars hit a ceiling they could never break through. By the late 8th century, the true bone aristocrats turned on each other in vicious succession wars. Between 780 and 935, Silla saw 20 different monarchs in just over 150 years. Most were assassinated. King Haegong was murdered in 780. King Ejeng was killed by his uncle in 809. King Huigang killed himself in 838 after his palace was stormed. The countryside descended into chaos. Tax collectors disappeared into the mountains, never to return. Buddhist monasteries grew so wealthy they fielded private armies. And in 889, under Queen Jinseong, the third reigning queen of Silla, the unpaid peasants finally rose. The rebellion of Wenzhong and Aino in the southeast unleashed a wave of warlord uprisings that the central government could no longer contain. Two warlords emerged from the chaos. In the southwest, a former Silla general named Jeon H1 declared the revival of Baekje in 900. In the north, a Buddhist monk and prince of obscure origin named Gung Ye proclaimed a new Goguryeo in 901. Korea was once again three kingdoms, locked in war. Then came the man who would end Silla forever. Wang Jin, a brilliant general serving Gung Ye, overthrew his unstable master in 918 and founded the Goryeo dynasty. The name Korea itself comes from Goryeo. For 17 years, Wang Jin waged a patient campaign of diplomacy and warfare. And in the autumn of 935, the last king of Silla, Gyeongsun, made a stunning decision. Rather than see his ancient kingdom drowned in blood, he traveled in person to the Goryeo court and surrendered the crown that had been worn by his ancestors for nearly 1,000 years. The Silla aristocracy was absorbed peacefully. No massacre, no burning capital. The longest ruling dynasty in East Asian history simply chose to lay down its sword. So why has the world forgotten Silla? Part of the answer lies in geography. Korea sits between two giants, China and Japan, whose histories have always dominated Western scholarship. When the Mongols sacked Jeonju in 1238 and burned the great 9-story pagoda of Hwangnyangsa to the ground, much of Silla's physical heritage was lost in a single afternoon. The Joseon dynasty that followed Goryeo embraced strict Confucianism and looked with embarrassment at Silla's Buddhist excess and its female monarchs. Court historians played down the kingdom's cosmopolitan, multicultural identity. But the deeper reason is colonial. When Imperial Japan annexed Korea in 1910, Japanese scholars deliberately reframed Korean history as a peripheral appendix to Chinese and Japanese civilization. Korean schoolchildren were taught their ancestors had achieved nothing of importance. Silla's gold crowns, displayed in Tokyo museums, were presented as curiosities rather than evidence of one of the most sophisticated cultures of the medieval world. And yet the evidence keeps surfacing. Over 150 Silla royal tombs still rise from the soil of Jeonju like green hills, most of them never excavated. The 1973 opening of the Heavenly Horse tomb revealed a saddle flap painted with a flying horse, the only surviving painting from the Silla period and one of the masterpieces of ancient Korean art. The 1975 excavation of Anapji Pond uncovered over 30,000 artifacts, including a wooden gaming die with 14 sides used for royal drinking games. Modern DNA analysis of Silla skeletons has revealed something even more startling. Some elite burials show genetic markers consistent with Central Asian and even European ancestry, confirming what the ancient texts hinted. Silla was not a closed hermit kingdom, but a vibrant terminus of the Silk Road, where Persian princes married Korean princesses and Sogdian merchants grew rich in the streets of Jeonju. The legacy is everywhere if you know where to look. The Korean alphabet, Hangul, was invented 6 centuries after Silla, but the cultural confidence that produced it was forged in the Silla Golden Age. Korean Buddhism, which today shapes the spiritual lives of millions across Asia, was largely codified by Silla monks like Wonhyo, whose philosophical writings influenced the entire East Asian Buddhist tradition. Even the modern global wave of Korean culture, from cinema to music, draws on a deep well of cultural identity that Silla helped create. CTA 1213 Min. If a 1,000-year empire that ruled longer than Rome can be forgotten by the modern world, imagine how many other civilizations are still waiting in the silence of history, buried under rice paddies and rainforests, under the assumption that nothing important happened there. This channel exists to dig them up. If you believe forgotten history deserves a voice, subscribe now and turn on the bell. Every subscriber helps these stories survive another generation. Tell us in the comments which forgotten empire you want uncovered next. Outro 1315 Min. The story of Silla teaches a lesson the modern world keeps refusing to learn. Empires do not fall because of foreign enemies. They fall because their internal hierarchies become so rigid that talent cannot rise and resentment cannot be released. Silla survived 992 years not because of its armies or its gold, but because for a brief, brilliant century it opened its highest offices to women, welcomed foreign merchants into its capital, and absorbed ideas from Persia, India, and China without fear. The moment it closed itself off, the moment blood mattered more than ability, the kingdom began its slow walk toward extinction. The gold crowns of Silla still rest in glass cases in the National Museum of Korea, 26 royal diadems hammered from sheets of pure gold so thin they tremble in the slightest breath of air. They were never meant to be worn in daily life. They were burial crowns made for kings and queens who believed their kingdom would last forever. It did not. But the lesson it left us, written in gold and stone and ash, still does. History does not forget the great. History forgets the proud. For nearly 1,000 years, the Silla kingdom ruled the Korean peninsula, outlasting the Roman Empire and producing more gold artifacts than any contemporary civilization. Yet outside Korea, almost no one remembers it existed. From its mythic founding in 57 BCE to its peaceful surrender in 935 CE, Silla was ruled by 3 reigning queens, defeated the mighty Tang Chinese Empire in open battle, and built a capital city of 1 million people connected to Persia and Rome by the Silk Road. This documentary uncovers the rise, golden age, and tragic forgetting of one of history's most extraordinary lost empires, including Queen Seondeok, the brilliant strategist Kim Yusin, the magnificent Bulguksa Temple, and the haunting Emil Bell. Discover why Silla vanished from world memory, what colonial Japan tried to erase, and what modern archaeology is finally revealing about Korea's golden age. Timestamps: 00, 00 the Hook 00, 45 the world before Silla 03, 00 rise of a hidden power 06, 00 the turning point 09, 00 the forgotten legacy 12, 00 subscribe for more lost history 13, 00 the lesson of the gold crown's ancient history forgotten empire Silla kingdom lost civilization Korean history.